This is CBC Vancouver News.
And all of a sudden there was a big explosion sound and the building actually literally shook.
An explosion and fire hit downtown Vancouver,
There was some blown out windows, there was some displaced concrete.
injuring 2 people and forcing evacuations.
We have over 50 pieces of equipment running 24 hours a day.
Big preparations for another big snowfall forecast for the South Coast and beyond.
This is an athlete that every Canadian should know.
And making good for a Vancouver and Canadian sports legend, decades after his Olympic medals were stolen. Good evening, I'm Dan Burritt. Thanks for joining us. Concrete was thrown around, windows blasted out, and 2 people hurt after an explosion and fire in downtown Vancouver tonight. Flames and smoke were pouring out at Burrard and Hastings outside the Marine building earlier. 45 firefighters were called in to contain the 2-alarm blaze. It's not yet clear what sparked the fire, but it prompted police to ask TransLink to close Waterfront Station for several hours.
There was a suspicion that this was an electrical vault explosion. There was some blown out windows, there was some displaced concrete. Fire crews dealt with 2 patients that were suffering facial burns and some lacerations. It moved a pretty big piece of concrete, so it was a pretty forceful blast. I think we were pretty lucky that more people weren't injured.
Emergency Health Services says the 2 patients are in stable condition. Crews also searched the nearby building to see if anyone was trapped, and the fire eventually burned itself out. People near the blast say it was beyond startling.
And all of a sudden there was a big explosion sound and the building actually literally shook. We were all immediately evacuated out of the pub there. We had workers up on the 3rd floor, I think, of the Marine building, and they were all evacuated out as well. So it looked like the whole building was evacuated right away.
We saw there was pretty heavy smoke, and with that we figured it was a good idea to get as far away as possible, urgently as well.
Waterfront Station has since reopened. BC Hydro says once the scene is safe, it will try to figure out the cause of the fire and do any repairs. Here we go again. Snowfall warnings are blanketing much of our province tonight as BC braces for up to a foot of snow in some areas, and that includes the South Coast. The CBC's Yasmin Khanea reports on how cities are preparing and what you can do.
In Surrey, trucks are filling up with saltwater solution ahead of the storm.
We've scheduled staff, so we have over 50 pieces of equipment running 24 hours a day. So when the snow does start coming, they can plow the snow off and reapply salt.
City crews have already started treating major routes. They've got over 10,000 tons of salt on hand, and it looks like they'll need it. Environment Canada says many parts of the province will be blanketed with snow, including Metro Vancouver and the Fraser Valley.
We are looking at amounts of 15 to 25 centimeters and up to 35 centimeters locally for higher terrain, especially closer to the mountains.
Light snow will start tomorrow and intensify to heavy snow that night, tapering off Sunday afternoon for most regions. East Vancouver Island has already been hit with as much as 35 centimeters of snow yesterday, and more is on the way.
We've been working with our operational teams to make sure that them and our maintenance contractors are ready to address the conditions as best as possible.
The Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure says there'll be teams at the Alex Fraser and Port Mann bridges, actively monitoring conditions there, warning there will be lane closures. Officials are reminding people to dress warmly, stay off the roads unless it's necessary, and to check Drive BC for the latest road conditions. Property owners, meanwhile, are advised to clear sidewalks of snow and ice or risk a hefty fine. Yasmin Khanea, CBC News, Vancouver.
There is a very good chance that you or someone you know and love has been hit with cancer. Today, the province unveiled a plan to beef up cancer care with almost $500 million in spending. Joel Ballard reports on the push to better prevent and detect the disease and speed up treatment.
Cancer rates are climbing across Canada, and BC is no exception.
Our population is growing, our population is aging, and we see more and more people facing a cancer diagnosis.
There were more than 30,000 new diagnoses in 2021. That's one of the reasons $440 million has been earmarked for a new 10-year BC Cancer Plan. The money will be used to expand cancer care teams and service hours, build new cancer centres around the province, provide people in rural and remote communities who have to travel for care with financial support, and attract more oncologists to BC, among other things.
One of the immediate actions that we're taking as of now is to make changes, for example, to ensure that oncologists in BC are paid at the top level in the country, which had not been the case.
The goal is to provide fast, accessible cancer care, a pressing issue following reports of people waiting months for testing and treatment.
It is unacceptable to be in a situation in our province where someone is waiting for screening or waiting for treatment to the point that it's compromising their cancer care.
BC Cancer hopes the money will help address those wait times. It aims to have 90% of patients see an oncologist within 4 weeks of their referral, 90% of patients to receive chemotherapy within 2 weeks of being ready for treatment, and 90% of patients to receive radiation within 4 weeks.
We're building towards those goals. It does take time to recruit people. It takes time to treat people. So although there may not have been an immediate change, this will happen over time.
The new funding is welcomed by the leader of the BC Green Party, who says both cancer care and healthcare in the province are in a state of crisis.
What's going to be really important is that this government shows what the outcomes are. So 6 months from now, have things improved? A year from now, have things improved? And what are we measuring?
Looking forward, the first $90 million installment will be made available on April 1st. Joel Ballard, CBC News, Vancouver.
A 47-year-old bus driver has been ordered to pay a fine after she was found responsible for the death of her coworker. The provincial courtroom in Vancouver came to a stunned silence today after the judge fined Mandeep Kaur Sidhu $1,500. She pleaded guilty to driving a motor vehicle without attention and care earlier this month after a crash killed fellow driver, 64-year-old Charanjit Parhar, in downtown Vancouver in 2021. Sidhu mistakenly stepped on the gas instead of the brake when she accelerated towards Parhar, pinning him between two buses. The judge notes Sidhu had a near-perfect driving record and called the crash a momentary lapse of attention. Sidhu apologized to Parhar's family in court. Parhar leaves behind a wife and 3 daughters, as well as grandchildren. His loved ones called the verdict unfair and unacceptable. Transit workers in the eastern part of the Fraser Valley are ratcheting up their job action, planning to fully withdraw services on Monday and Tuesday.
All buses will be off the road. All drivers will be on the picket line, as well as bus washers and mechanics.
It started earlier this month with bus drivers refusing to collect fares. The union representing First Transit workers says it's to do with low wages, no pensions, and poor working conditions. The strike will not affect Handy Dart service.
So Abbotsford and Chilliwack are going to be the main places that are hit hard, and the people that go from Chilliwack to Burnaby for working, that work downtown, because they connect with the SkyTrain.
BC Transit says it is closely monitoring the situation and apologizes to customers. Quest University in Squamish is closing at the end of this term. The private, not-for-profit liberal arts and sciences university opened in 2007. But its board says it has not found funding to stay open beyond the end of this April. University officials will help students transfer to other colleges and universities, and prospective students who planned on starting in September will have their tuitions refunded. Quest University will still hold its spring graduation for the class of 2023. The on-campus ceremony is set for the end of April. For the third time now, the Vancouver-Fraser Port Authority has hit the brakes on a controversial truck replacement plan. The rolling truck program would phase out vehicles more than 12 years old to improve air quality. But the port is now pausing that for another 9 months to reassess plans. It says it made the decision because of the state of the economy, but it also faced serious backlash from truckers. The United Truckers Association is hailing the pause, saying it would have put huge strain on their drivers to buy new, expensive vehicles. Today marks 1 year since Russia began its invasion of Ukraine. While many have stayed in that country, refugees continue to flee in search of a safer life. BC has taken in more than 11,000 people, but as Yasmin Gandam shows us, some groups are still looking for hosts to house more.
Serhii Maximchuk is one of thousands here from Ukraine. He's been in BC for 1 month working to build trailers at a factory in Chilliwack. Maximchuk connected with Bradley Jeanette over Facebook and is currently living with him.
I thought that I will not gonna find anyone to help me with, so I wanted just to go to refugee center. But instead of that, I feel like I'm at home, and Jeanette family now, yeah, it's my family too.
Jeanette's had about 20 different refugees in and out of his home in Chilliwack over the past year. He's also helped coordinate housing for more than 250 refugees, but he says that's not nearly enough.
Very difficult to tell somebody that's coming from a war-torn country, I have no place for you.
He keeps trying to work with them, though, to find accommodation and employment. Among them is Anton Brezichenko, who has been in Chilliwack for 6 months. His friend lives in the city, so he was able to stay with him until he found his own apartment.
I can remember, the first day I came here, I already obtained a job and find accommodation. Yeah. So my start was really easy here.
But Jeanette says a smooth transition is not always the case. Ukrainians who do not speak English or who have specific employment needs are finding it hard to settle in BC.
You come to Canada, you have very small amount of funds available, you have to start working, and in order to work, you need to be able to at least go to the interview and be able to answer the questions. And if the language level isn't there, you're stuck.
Add to that the fact BC has some of the highest rental rates in the country, and new arrivals can find themselves in a very difficult situation.
If they don't have any place to live, are we adding to our already taxed housing situation, and are we going to end up with more people on the street?
He says that is what keeps him up at night. Yasmin Kandam, CBC News, Chilliwack.
This was Cranbrook earlier tonight. The Shelter for Ukrainian Society hosted a vigil to mark the 1-year anniversary of the Russian invasion. More than 60 Ukrainians landed in the East Kootenay region since the war began. The Society helps displaced Ukrainians find homes and jobs and connect them with fellow Ukrainians.
The community has been tremendously supportive. We've had wonderful support from individuals, from organizations, volunteer groups, churches, businesses, and many of these folks have found employment, and they're attending English classes. Their children are in school or attending daycare, and they are getting driver's licenses, learning how to drive in Canada, getting used to life in Canada, going swimming at the pool, going to the library, going on the bus. So it's a new adventure for them, and they're getting a lot of support from us, from our volunteers, and from the community at large, and from within their own group.
Well, Black History Month is coming to an end. Important conversations will continue. A high school club in Abbotsford is being led by Black students and educators, and it's sparking conversations about identity and belonging. The CBC's Benit Breach sat down with those students to talk about what it means in the Fraser Valley.
I've been through a lot of issues, I guess. I've done the whole marathon when it comes to racism.
It kind of just creates like a space where we can go and it's nothing to worry about, and like we can just forget about those problems.
This group to me is everything. It's powerful, it's meaningful, it's impactful, and ultimately it changes lives.
Black Connections is definitely a safe space. You don't get looked at differently or anything. You get the same eyes, everybody's looking at each other. We all love each other.
The boys with their dreads, like that is them expressing themselves, and me with my fluffy hair, like that is me authentically showing who I am.
For me, this group is really a family, someone I can talk to without being judged.
Because there's not really a place for Black people to go and feel like included and talk their mind and just be Black and not feel like anyone's watching you or they just looking at you and stuff. Me and my friends, I have a group of Black friends. We go to the mall and we're hanging out. Like we just get looked at by security and it just looked like kind of just like off, and everyone would kind of just be like the center. You'd be like the center of attention.
There's a lot of openly racist things that happen throughout the years. Like it's never just one and done. There's always something else happening.
people are like, oh, it happens. It's part of growing up in the Fraser Valley, but it's really not. It's not normalized, and it shouldn't be normalized. Like hearing the N-word in a book, or being pointed out because you're Black and you must know who Rosa Parks is. It's isolating and it sucks.
The power of numbers is that now we're getting heard. This space really takes Black excellency to the next level. It really is a safe place.
It's definitely good. I've definitely made some pretty good friends, even starting last year.
Well, I didn't know there was this many Black students in our district before Black Connections, so it was really cool to see that.
Growing up as someone who is mixed, like I have a white parent and a Black parent, I think I never really knew where I fit between that, if I should act more white or if I should act more Black. And I think I really struggled with finding that in between for so long. We all belong here and we need to be seen and heard. I hope that it continues to change lives because that's what it's done.
A pair of newly minted gold medals to replace stolen ones. The restored honor for a Vancouver Olympian who was once the fastest man on Earth. You'll want to see this. And hello to everyone watching our commercial-free live stream tonight. Thanks for being here. CBC is highlighting Black people in Canada who are giving back. Chanel Briggs credits their grandmother with their love of community. Briggs says her grandma was someone who was there for others who were in trouble. And that is the driving force behind their work as a poet, activist, and a storyteller.
The many facets of my identity makes it so that people don't want to see me. And I try to show up fully as myself. I speak with my whole chest. And I just hope that when I'm entering this space, it inspires others to be who they are all the time. My name is Chanel Briggs. I am from PEI, and I am a Black change maker. Community has always been a healing space for me. Community is where I have felt seen, and I just want to be able to hold space for the people I love the same way that they have always done for me. Like my grandma was a prayer warrior, and for me that's like an OG community organizer. Like she was up at like 3 a.m. taking phone calls, talking to people when they are at their most vulnerable and holding space for their softness, unwavering love, radical softness. That's kind of the core of what I do. In times like these, the most vulnerable of our population, the most othered in our population and our communities are the ones that we make invisible and we choose not to see them. And I think it's really, really important that I hold space for me, myself, and other members of my community to be all that they are. I'm deeply just looking forward to the children that are growing up right now, getting to see the changes that are happening and knowing that their future is going to be so bright because they can do and be anything. Because I think a lot of people have been stunted being the only Black person in a space. I feel very lucky and blessed to be recognized, but that just put like more fire under my engine. I'm like, oh, you think I'm a change maker? Wait till I call myself a change maker. It's gonna be over for you. Like when I fully claim that, y'all better watch out.
It's an Olympic medal ceremony decades in the making. More than 40 years ago, thieves in BC made off with a pair of gold medals won by a Vancouver athlete. But as Renee Filipponi shows us, his family has been given a restored honor.
Percy Williams of Canada won double golds in the 100 and 200-meter sprints.
He's the only Canadian to ever do it in a surprising victory at the 1928 Amsterdam Olympics. Percy Williams returned home a hero, but decades later, his prized medals were stolen after being donated to the BC Sports Hall of Fame.
In 1980, when gold prices had spiked to historic highs, one night a thief broke into Percy's display at the PNE.
Wanting to restore his legacy, Williams' family pushed the International Olympic Committee to replace them, and it worked.
What a proud and satisfying moment. This feels right.
To recreate them, the original 1928 molds were pulled out of the Olympic archives.
It is a rare situation, but certainly these kinds of cases, the International Olympic Committee felt that it was appropriate to make the exception.
There was, disappointment, and that's gone now. Now they're going to remember him for his accomplishments.
Vancouver-born Percy Williams was an unexpected champion.
As a boy, he suffered from rheumatic fever, which apparently weakened his heart, and doctors told him to take it easy, and he didn't.
Decades later, the Olympian reflected on his achievements.
The first one was enough, but when you get two, that really finished it.
But Williams also deserves another spot in Canadian history. George Stanley, the designer of the current Canadian flag, says this image of Williams crossing the finish line with a maple leaf on his chest was the inspiration.
He was instrumental in us having our flag nationally, and people don't know that.
With the medals restored, the hope is Percy Williams, once the fastest man in the world, will get the recognition he deserves. Renee Filipponi, CBC News, Vancouver.
There's a live shot of a clear and bustling Georgia Street. Bundle up, though, grab the shovel. Maybe just stay home tomorrow. Snow is coming to the south coast. Johanna will tell us how much in her BC-wide forecast right after this.
Fans, they've had a few, the tickets we have plenty, but the lineup is so short, the seats they could be empty. Well, you may have seen longer lineups at bus stops, but they are Frank Sinatra fans.
I'm not a singer. I dance every time I hear him singing. I dance.
Oh, can you dance to one?
He inspires me. Well, sure. You come and sing New York, New York, and I'm going to dance.
Great, good. Do we have a taker here?
Yeah. Oh, no. Yeah.
What's your favorite song?
My Way.
Can you sing it?
No, I can't.
Come on, try.
No.
There might be a prize.
No, thank you.
Can you recite the lyrics?
The song a robin sings through years of endless springs. Is that enough?
So any lyrics that pop to mind at all?
That's life, that's about it. I don't know how to begin it.
Start spreading the news.
Start spreading the news. I'm leaving today.
I'm gonna break a brand new start of it.
I'm gonna make a brand new start of it.
New York, New York.
New York, New York.
Excellent, good work.
No, I think I could.
A guy up there singing New York, New York.
I didn't know. I thought there was a mugging going on. I don't know. I honestly didn't know what everybody was. It's a lot of racket.
What do you think? Has he still got it?
I don't know. That's what we're going to find out.
You're gonna spend $38 to find out?
Yep. I sure hope the old boy can still cook. He's 70, so I just hope he can hit everything that he's supposed to be able to hit.
Yeah, I think he's still got a pretty good voice. Unique. It's unique. It's not a great voice. It's a unique voice.
Great.
And he's a good entertainer. He's kind of interesting. He's an interesting character. Not only that, I wouldn't want Frank to come all the way up here to Vancouver and find out that I didn't go see him. You don't want to make Frank angry. Huh?
Hey, thanks.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
On March 29th, join Leanne Young at the Zilly Cares Conversation on Care, a mental health fundraiser with special guests Dr. Gabor Mate and Dr. Mariam Zainadin. Get your tickets at zillycare.com. And never miss a special programming series, event, or contest. Subscribe to CBC Vancouver's e-newsletter at cbc.ca/Vancouver inbox and keep connected with us.
The weather update is brought to you by Direct Buy Furnace, installing the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train.
She's been warning us all week. She's been honing in on the system. Meteorologist Johanna Wagstaffe is here for the BC-wide weather forecast as we wait for the snow across the South Coast.
And now it is literally knocking on the door, Dan. Yes, I've done all I can do, as you said. No, I will be tracking the storm live tomorrow. You better believe it, even on a Saturday, because this is going to be one of the biggest snowfalls that the South Coast has seen, not just this season, but in quite some time. That's the way it's panning out. Let me show you the big picture on the satellite. This is the same system that has been hitting Prince George since the afternoon hours. We're starting to see that snow work its way down through the North Okanagan. We have widespread winter storm and snowfall warnings in place, all associated with this Pacific snowmaker that's just colliding with our Arctic air mass. So those in orange, which include the Caribou and Prince George, upwards of 35 centimeters by tomorrow afternoon. You can see down towards the South Coast, Vancouver included. Our warning is for 10 to 35 centimeters. Probably a good bet will land somewhere in the middle for most of Metro Vancouver, but again, a significant event. Here's the timing, really beginning for Metro Vancouver around 1 p.m. The atmosphere is so dry, I wouldn't be surprised if it gets delayed by a few hours, but so far honing in on that 1 p.m. start, becoming heavy Saturday evening before clearing out quite early Sunday morning. Here's another look at that timing. So dry through the overnight, dry to start your Saturday. We start to see that snow sneak in for the afternoon, becoming heavy in the evening hours. You can see those darker purples before easing on Sunday. And I just want to show you one more view of those snowfall totals. We'll get an additional 10 to 20 overnight for central BC. And then check out this gradient, that dark blue you can see running through the Tri-Cities, North Shore, even inching into downtown. That's the 20 plus centimeter range. So yes, it is a big storm. Dan, I will be watching for some rain mixing in at sea level that may lower some of those totals. As you know, there are a lot of factors with snow on the West Coast, and it's not all done. This will be the big snow event, but keep an eye on some wet flakes through next week as well.
Oh, is that all to keep in mind?
Just write that down.
Got
Make
it.
a memo.
All right, everyone's taking notes. Joe, thanks very much.
You're welcome. Good luck.
That's your late news for Friday. Thanks for joining us tonight and this busy week. For news anytime, check our website, cbc.ca/BC. Your next news is tomorrow morning at 6:30 on CBC Radio 1. We're going to leave you tonight with a vigil for Ukraine from Kelowna. Good night. Stay safe.